Hi, this is Rabbi Rami Goldberg, and welcome to Biblical Money, powered by Israel 365, where we take a deep dive into how people of faith enhance their business by staying true to their biblical principles. We interview leading CEOs, executives, and entrepreneurs to capture their wisdom to help us live our most fulfilled and faithful lives. Please like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date and informed. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Biblical Money. I'm your host, Rabbi Rami Goldberg. And I am here today with Staci Wright from just north of Dallas. And she's joining us with a very interesting kind of hybrid between a company and a ministry with Heart Profit. So Staci, thank you so much for joining, and looking forward to a great show.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Heart Profit, because most of the time when we talk in business, there's no heart and profit. It's just show me the money, right? So what are you looking to accomplish with the ministry / you tell us about it.
Yes, we're looking to make a sustainable change in the world to stave off the mental health crisis that we're facing in the world today. So I'm an entrepreneur by nature, and so I've had 6 businesses over the last 20 years. And about 15 years ago, I really started getting into charity and volunteerism. So I started volunteering in my community. I volunteered at the Child Therapy Center. I volunteered at the soup kitchen, just the homeless shelter for teenagers, just a multitude of volunteer roles that I filled during that time. And after a couple of years of doing this, I started seeing some very alarming things. One of them was that the needs in the community were growing, the needs for mental health services, the needs for food, the needs for shelter, all the needs that people had. There was a growing number of people needing those, falling into that realm of population. And our professionals and the resources that we had weren't keeping up with the trajectory of needs. The second thing I noticed was that as charities, we were really just putting bandages and band-aids on problems. We weren't really getting to the root cause of what is causing people to have so many needs in the society we live in today. And so as I was going through my own personal crisis and dealing with my own mental health issues in a world of chaos and craziness, I started thinking, why can't we use the power and sustainability of problem solving that business provides in the social area? So combine charity and a for-profit business, if you will. The business side of things creates sustainability and funding, and then the charitable side of it provides services for people and helps people thrive. And so if we bring those two together, I thought, well, that just makes sense. We can stave off the mental health crisis that we're facing and help people do better in the world. So that's how Heart Profit started. And what it's evolved into is a organization that does education for business owners and business leaders on how to have compassion, connection, and performance in your business, so that we can bring people together, bring heart into business, and still have a sustainable business that is making profit at the same time.
Okay, so meaning this is where we know that America is the wealthiest nation ever to exist, and we see on the mental health side things are going down, and people are less connected, they're less engaged than they've ever been. So what are some of the steps? Okay, I have a business. What are some of the things that you do to kind of counsel businesses or work with them to improve, I guess their what they're able to give to their employees?
Let's back up just a minute. What you just said just a minute ago is a very important point. And they say one of the leading drivers of the mental health crisis is this culture of independence that we've created, this disconnected. We're all on our own. We're not really connected like we used to be. And so humans are designed for connection. And so if a disconnection is the primary driving force of the mental health crisis, then logic would have it, if we bring connection back and connect people back together, we can help stave off this crisis. So that's one of the key drivers of what we teach people, is how to have connection within the workplace and create that camaraderie, create that compassion and care in the business. what I found personally, and this is why we need a whole education system around this, I grew up in the command and control era of business where it was all about the bottom line and people were expendable and it's a hard line that we drew, and profit was what was most important. And so when I started flipping over to this other way of doing business, I started having all the compassion, but what I realized is that I got in over my head. So I brought compassion to a business that was traditionally run on command and control. And I found myself in my office doing therapy 2 hours a day. And the business, the performance was not there. And so we had a whole lot of compassion and connection, but we didn't have a whole lot of performance. And so I realized early on that I needed to get some new tools in my tool belt and to figure out how to really marry the two things of performance and compassion at the same time. And so that's where the education piece came in. So we teach businesses the foundation. It's a holistic approach to education. It's not just talking about what does a human need for mental health. I mean, we do talk about that, but it goes deeper into the leadership. And we teach things like how to have empathy with your people and also have high expectations, and to coach them into succeeding as opposed to commanding them to do XYZ. So we teach how to garner commitment from people as opposed to compliance. So it's a shift in perspective. It's a shift in leadership. And when you do these things, you can create a healthy, thriving workforce that is high performing and high functioning and mentally well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so hard. I think one of the kind of the challenges, and this is something that I think the school system is also struggling with, is school is there to educate. And don't give me your mental health issues and like whatever you bring from your home, whatever baggage, take care of it at home. And, and schools had to deal with it. Now it seems like businesses have to go ahead and also like kind of worry about people's mental health. And I mean, I just look back, my grandfather, he punched into the factory, did his work, and he punched out. Was he happy? Was he not happy? I don't know, but he did what he needed to do. Like what gives that all of a sudden, every institution now has to be a mental health, kind of focused institution.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's just the problem has gotten so widespread that now businesses are feeling the effect of people not being engaged at work, people not being committed to their workplace. So employers are really, and business owners are really feeling the strain of the workforce and what's happened to the people as in general. And so we've had to shift our hats from just providing jobs to providing more of a connected environment to help our people do better, because the majority of the people are on some level struggling with something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely hear it. I'm kind of like, I'm always curious. We have it obviously in the Jewish community, different disconnected. I think we have a little bit of an advantage because we do have Shabbat and we do have communities that are built around the synagogue. But I remember there was a book a bunch of years back called Bowling Alone, right? Where people, no longer are bowling. And, when I was growing up, it was guys are sitting there drinking beers and smoking cigarettes when you could do that inside. But they were together. I don't know, Tuesday afternoon, middle of the day. I don't know those guys, but that has since moved on, that people, now are so independent. We're all, in our, on our devices, and separate from other people. So certainly is a challenge. So you started 6 businesses. Give me some of the things that you've done in the past, and kind of what worked and what didn't work until you kind of found some new tools to work in.
Well, generally speaking, I started out in the service-based business. So I had an insurance agency, and then that ended in a failed partnership. And then I started another insurance agency, and that one did really well. We found a niche. And so we really niched down into one market, did really well, built that business and sold it, and then started a product-based business. And then when we switched from service based to product based, there was a big learning curve there for us when you're dealing with manufacturing, and especially overseas manufacturing, and the quantities and the all the intricacies of a product based business. You think it's pretty simple, but it's really not. So we went through that learning curve. Almost went broke, but we salvaged it back again, and built that business up to a good size of $5 million business, a small business, and then got hit with a huge lawsuit from an ex-employee that really just over the next 10 years annihilated my life. And that's what I was talking about when I was going through my own crisis of a complete come apart in my life. Yes, yes, learned a lot of valuable lessons through that process. And then on the other side is when I started looking at, okay, how can we change our businesses to where it's not just about making money? I mean, making money is great and it's a lot of fun to have a lot of money, but it's just not it's not fulfilling. It's not the ultimate fulfillment. And so there's got to be more, and we can use business. I'm just such a passionate business person. I love business so much. And I thought, how can we make business be good? And so that's when I started a company called IP to Market. So we do patented products, but our business model is for our manufacturing plants, for our assembly plants. We focus on hiring single moms, and we have daycare on site so that their kids can be here too. And we really work with women to help bring them into a state of thriving through that business model. And so we make money from selling patented products, and then the people who work for us get the benefit of that. And then from there that's when I started the compassionate business, and I got in over my head and had to get some help. And from that whole experience of having to learn new ways of being a leader, that's where Heart Profit was born, because I found other leaders and other business owners were struggling with the same thing. There's a lot of business owners and business leaders that are really waking up to the idea of, we really could use our business for good. And we really do want to have more compassion and more grace and more connection with our people, but we don't know how. We've been taught to keep your employees at a distance, or like you said, leave your problems at home and when you get to work. And so we don't know how to do that. And so as I was talking to other business owners and experiencing it myself, I thought, well, let's put something together that solves that problem. And that's where Heart Profit came from. So Heart Profit is actually a nonprofit that serves the for-profit community and bringing more heart to business.
Yeah, I think it is really important, because I know when I started my business, and I started with my partner, and believe it or not, after 12 years, we're still very good friends. So, but even with the two of us, there was still a loneliness feeling of like, hey, you're running this, and like, what does it mean to run a business, imposter syndrome, all of those things, and kind of started working with a couple of my friends who had also started businesses around the same time. And so there was that camaraderie, but because a lot of times you don't even know what you should or shouldn't be doing, how you should or shouldn't be treating other people, or also the legal aspects of things can also really get in the way. Sometimes laws are there kind of to protect certain types of people, but do end up straining other types of relationships. I think is always one of the challenges that are there.
Absolutely. And kudos to you for being in business for 12 years with a partner, because that is not easy to do. Partnerships are difficult, and it requires a certain level of commitment, and also the ability to have hard conversations. And that's
if you want an even bigger anomaly, both of our wives were in the business to start with. So
wow.
When we started the business, it was the four of us, and we are still all on speaking terms, and we get along. So yeah, it definitely is. And I think with us, it was really just a matter of, the most important thing was not someone's feelings. The most important thing is what's good for the business. And definitely there were some hard conversations in there, but it was really never personal. So that's something that we always felt within the business, that let's just figure out whose idea is correct, as far as moving forward is concerned. So that was that.
Finding that common goal and working towards it.
Yeah, you mentioned, and I don't want to pry too much, but you had this experience with this employee, and you learned a lot of lessons from that. Any of them that you could pull out for us, obviously, without delving too deep into a situation, but kind of something that we can learn from the situation. As far as how to be better, I guess managers, mentors.
Absolutely. I think that looking back, there was not a lot of connection back then. It was command and control. And so the employees were, told to comply, and these are the rules, and follow them or else. And so it created a disconnect. And so there was already a lack of connection there, a lack of care. And then when things didn't go the way the employee wanted it to go, and they ended up letting go, there was a lack of care. That's why I say there was a lack of care on our part as the leaders, and I fully own up to that. But that's, like I said, that was back when it was about command and control, and it was about profit at all costs, and it was about you did what was best for the business, and people were expendable. And so we were operating under that business model. And when you operate under that business model, you don't have connections with people. There's not a common goal that we're all working towards. So how that has, translated into how I do business now as opposed to then is I operate with very clear expectations, obviously, but also with a level of care. Like the people, like I care about the person before I care about the compliance. Like what's going on with the person? Because if the connection is there and the person is thriving, then they're gonna want to, and they're a good person, then they're gonna want to help with the ultimate goal of driving the business forward. But when you have, when you don't have that common ground to stand on, and it's every man for themselves, and I'm sure that's how that employee felt. So he came in with some really high dollar lawyers. And one of the practical lessons that we learned very early on is that it's, going to court isn't always the best. You can be right and still lose. So that is the one thing that we learned big time in that lawsuit, was that we were standing on what was true and what was right. But it didn't matter in that case. And so once it got to court and there were different things thrown into the mix that muddied the waters really badly, we ended up losing, and it was a bad suit. So now I understand more why people settle, even when they're right, early on in a lawsuit. So I say do whatever you can to avoid a lawsuit to begin with, by having clear expectations, by having everything in writing, and then having a connection with your people, so that there's some level of care, that you're both caring for each other and it's reciprocal.
Yeah, I think one of the hard things about business, and as a business owner, you see things obviously from one side, and I would love for the employees to see that other side. And I think that's where it becomes a challenge, where it's like, oh, the person thinks this, that, or the next thing, and I don't think that at all. But there's just other priorities or other things that need to move forward.
Yes, and that's why we teach, and what we encourage owners and leaders to do is be as transparent as you can. That if something impacts any person, they should have all the facts. And so we talk about sharing financials. We talk about like super transparency, so that the people that are working for you, that are committed to driving your vision into reality, they understand all of the pieces. And when they understand all of the pieces, they're a lot more understanding of your position and where you're coming from. Versus what we've done in the past is it's just like, no, that's on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know that. And so we really keep a big gap of knowledge from them. We do it for good reasons, because we think that it's going to cause more trouble. And it does cause you to have to give more information. There's a little more work that goes into it when you are being so transparent, because you are explaining everything. But when they truly understand, it's a whole different ball game when you have employees like that.
Yeah, no, it is. I think that's always the challenge where you're sitting on different sides. The other thing I think is relationships, working relationships. I guess there's only two ways that they really end. Barring the person kicking the bucket, but I'm saying they either end by being fired or by quitting. And so I think one of the challenges. Well, are you expecting that to work here forever? And I almost feel like that's something I want to say to employees. Well, are you expecting to be here forever? So if not, then one of two ways that you're going to leave here is either you're going to leave or we're going to have you leave. And so, I think that sometimes people are like, they kind of have this the in their mind where no, it should only be mine as the employee's decision whether or not that I should leave. So I think that also is very challenging. But in the end of the day, there really is only two ways for you to leave a company.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we encourage that to be, no matter which way it goes, that there's still connection and care when it happens. Right. So I've been able to let people go and still be their friend and still say, I care about you. And if there's anything I can do, let me know. And vice versa.
Yeah, and that's always a challenge of like how much can you move to that next step, and can you act as a reference? I mean, I love it when people reach out to me, if it didn't go well, and say, hey, can you act as a reference? Yeah, I love you like a brother or a sister, and I'm happy to help you in the next step. It just this was not your calling. This was not your place at this particular. But all too often, it's very difficult and painful that people will slam the door and not want to talk to you. Which I understand. If someone, I've had people curse me out and then call me up a couple of days later and ask for something, and I'm happy to help them as long as they curse me out respectfully. Then we can move forward. So that's always the challenge. So how do you deal? To what extent do you bring God into the picture and religion, or kind of non-denominational religion into the work? Or should corporations bring it in? Because the things that you're never supposed to talk about in a company are, politics and religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have a little bit of a different take on that.
Actually, I don't, because I don't bring any religion or faith-based conversation into the business. I prefer to be the hands and feet of love in everything that I do, including my business. And so we pretty much we share love, we share compassion, we share grace. I like to say I like to live like Jesus lived, but I don't want to talk about Jesus to anybody, because because I want to be respectful, because I think there's many different pathways in life to get to God. I don't think there's one way. And so I don't want to push my way. I also don't want to disrespect somebody else's way. And I know that people that have been very hurt by religion, and so I don't want to poke an injury that was there from something that may have happened to them in a church experience or a religious experience, because I personally had that myself. And so we don't have those conversations. We don't have any formal rituals that we do here that represent any kind of religion. We're open to all, and we love everybody as equals.
Right. Okay. So that's that's always something. But I mean, there is kind of the underlying presence of God that you do try to have without it being oh, we're going to put this in your face, which it's always that challenge, because on the one hand you want to make sure that God gets the credit for things that are happening, and on the other hand, you want to be sensitive. So I think that is that certainly is a challenge. So what do you see happening, moving forward the next 6 months to a year, in terms of the business? How are you looking to grow, and what are some of the exciting things that are on the docket for you?
Oh my goodness. What is so exciting for me to see is that I'm seeing more and more leaders wake up to this idea of compassionate business. I'm seeing more and more businesses wake up. I talked to a global aerospace company that employs 92,000 people. And what they said to me was, we have a people problem and we've got to figure out our people problem. If we don't take care of our people problem, we are not going to have a business in 3 to 5 years. We don't have the tools. What we've done in the past is not working. We've got to find something new, and they're resonating with the message that Heart Profit is bringing. And so I am filled with a super huge amount of hope that more and more leaders are coming on board. The plan for Heart Profit is we do this education process. So we have a curriculum and we have a 12-month period where we work with companies to transform them into this new style of being. And then we provide certification. So we do Heart Profit certification. So our goal by the end of this year, 2025, is to have 50 businesses certified under the Heart Profit name and brand. So that is one of the things that we're working towards now. We have 10 in the process, going through the process as we speak. We have our next cohort getting ready to start up in May. So we are well on our way for that. The other thing that we're really working towards, we have a crowdfunding mechanism. So as you know, in the world today, money is power. And if you want to bring power to a movement or power to something, you need to bring money. And so we have a crowdfunding platform where we are recruiting 1 million people globally to join this community. And this is a community of people who care. So we call it the Million Who Care. And it's $5 a month to join this community. So that gives us $5 million a month to channel and to funnel to businesses who are doing business from the heart. So the community itself votes on where that money goes. And so businesses like yours, if you wanted to start a mission or do something for your people to increase their mental well-being, but there's initial upfront cost that's more than you can handle right now, you can write in for a grant to this Million Who Care. So say if a manufacturing plant wants to open a daycare on site and it's $250,000 to open the daycare, they can write in for a grant to the community who cares, and we can send $250,000 to them to open their daycare on site. So we're really looking to proliferate this movement through the crowdfunding platform. So we are looking this year, we want to have 100,000 people in the Million Who Care program. And so that's the other thing we're looking for in the next 6 months, is to really grow that crowdfunding platform.
That is, it's an amazing idea, and it's you look at what's $5 a month, and you can get together. I have a friend of mine who started a nonprofit called dailygiving.org, and what he does is for $1 a day. And he went out and for $1 a day, he takes all the dollars and he gives it to a certain charity every single day, and he reports back on it. And this is mostly within the Jewish community, and he's at like $22,000 a day.
Wow.
That he is channeling towards different charities. So
that's incredible.
It's a pretty amazing thing, and it's it shows these like small
power. The thing is, we hold the power. The many people hold the power. It's just, how do you channel that power in a way that's effective? And so these crowdfunding mechanisms channel the power of the people for a greater cause, for a greater good.
Yeah. So that's it's amazing. And he, when he was starting, I probably gave dollar like 20 or something. He was like calling up every friend of ours. He's like, okay, I need $1 a day. And he wouldn't go to sleep until he got to that point. But yeah, if you have to just grind it out. And, if you can get that's a really, that's something that's really, really exciting. So, I think I'm gonna, maybe think about how we can lift that idea from you. Cause I think that could be really cool, to do at Israel 365 with some of our people. But
yeah, absolutely.
But maybe I'll talk to you after. So, but anyway, this is Staci. It's really just amazing, and I think it's so timely because I think people are looking for that connection. We kind of, grew up in a time where it was like, okay, technology is going to be the answer for everything. And, now that we turn around 25 years after, email and the internet really got rolling, and, 10 years after or 15 years after social media really got underway, and we're realizing, no, technology is not the solution to almost anything. It ends up just being the problem of disconnectedness, and now we need to bring everyone really, really back together. Which amazing work that you are doing, and God should bless you in this effort, and be able to get to that, not the million who care, but the 10 million who care, and the 20 million who care. But one step at a time, but slowly. So
Absolutely.
blessings on that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the words of kindness and confirmation. It's really, I think we're at a pivotal point in humanity, and I think that we're really going to be seeing in the next decade some big changes in the way that we operate, in the way that we treat each other, in the way that technology goes. There's a lot going on, and it's an exciting time to be here. But having platforms like these, where we are working on connecting people and bringing God into our lives, I think is really what's going to help us build a new earth, a new way of being that we've not seen before.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Staci. Appreciate your time, and God bless.
Thank you so much.